A wall of steel and dreams, the Maginot Line. The scars of the First World War etched themselves deeply upon the soul of France. A generation decimated, a nation yearning for security, France sought to forge a shield against the horrors of another mechanized war. This shield, the Maginot Line, a colossal chain of fortifications stretching along the Franco-German border, stands as a monument to human ambition, defensive ingenuity, and ultimately, the unforeseen twists of fate. Conceived in the aftermath of the Great War by André Maginot, a French politician, the Maginot Line was a colossal undertaking. For nearly 2 decades, legions of engineers toiled away, carving a network of subterranean fortresses, artillery emplacements, and observation posts into the very bedrock. This subterranean labyrinth, bristling with weaponry, was designed to be an impenetrable barrier, a wall of steel and concrete that would deter any potential German incursion. The Maginot Line was a marvel of military engineering. Its fortified positions were self-contained, boasting barracks, power generation facilities, and stockpiles of supplies, allowing them to operate autonomously for weeks. An intricate network of railways facilitated rapid troop and equipment movement within the line. Advanced weaponry, from heavy artillery to flamethrowers, promised to unleash a devastating inferno upon any attacker foolish enough to challenge the French defenses. However, the Maginot Line was not without its flaws. The defensive strategy it embodied, rooted in static warfare, failed to anticipate the evolving tactics of modern warfare. The Maginot Line's strength lay solely along the Franco-German border, leaving the northern frontier with Belgium vulnerable. This strategic oversight, fueled by a desire to avoid violating Belgian neutrality, would ultimately prove to be a fatal miscalculation. Furthermore, the Maginot Line's creators underestimated the ingenuity and audacity of potential adversaries. German military strategists, keenly aware of the Maginot Line's limitations, devised a daring plan: bypass the elaborate fortifications altogether and launch a surprise attack through the Ardennes forest, a densely forested region deemed impassable for mechanized warfare. The fateful test came in 1940, when Nazi Germany launched its Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, offensive. While the Maginot Line held firm against frontal assaults, the German army, spearheaded by their panzer, or tank, divisions, surged through the Ardennes, outflanking the Maginot Line and plunging France into disarray. The supposedly impregnable wall became a silent spectator to the rapid collapse of the French army. The legacy of the Maginot Line remains a subject of debate. Some view it as a colossal waste of resources, a monument to misplaced faith in defensive tactics. Others argue that it served a vital purpose, deterring German aggression for nearly 2 decades and allowing France to focus on rebuilding its military after the devastation of the First World War. The Maginot Line's story serves as a potent reminder that military might is not an absolute guarantee of victory. Technological advancements and innovative tactics can render even the most formidable defenses obsolete. Furthermore, the Maginot Line underscores the importance of strategic foresight and adaptability in the face of an evolving enemy. The Maginot Line serves as a cautionary tale, urging us to avoid complacency and to constantly re-evaluate our defense strategies in the face of a changing world. It reminds us that true security lies not just in physical fortifications, but also in adaptability, strategic flexibility, and a constant vigil against the potential for war. It is a stark reminder of the enduring human quest for security and the ever-present need for strategic foresight in a world fraught with uncertainty. A nation divided, from dictatorship to republic, and the seeds of the Spanish Civil War. The tapestry of Spanish history in the early 20th century is woven with threads of discontent, political upheaval, and the yearning for a more democratic future. We will explore the turbulent years leading up to the Spanish Civil War, a period marked by the rise and fall of a dictatorship, the establishment of the Second Spanish Republic, and the simmering tensions that ultimately erupted in a brutal conflict. Miguel Primo de Rivera, a military general, seized power in a bloodless coup d'état in 1923. Spain, grappling with social unrest, labor strikes, and a perceived lack of national stability, witnessed the rise of a dictatorship that promised order and economic progress. Primo de Rivera's regime, though initially popular with some segments of society, was ultimately a house of cards built on repression and censorship. Despite initial successes in restoring order and fostering economic growth, the dictatorship was plagued by internal contradictions. The regime's heavy-handed approach to dissent alienated segments of the population, while a decline in the economy eroded public support. By the late 1920s, calls for a return to democracy grew louder, and the once popular dictator found himself increasingly isolated. In 1930, facing mounting pressure and a deteriorating economic situation, Primo de Rivera resigned. His departure ushered in a period of political uncertainty and a growing clamor for democratic reforms. Municipal elections held in April 1931, intended as a test of public opinion, saw a resounding victory for Republican and Socialist candidates. King Alfonso XIII, sensing the shift in the national mood, fled into exile, marking the end of the monarchy and the dawn of the Second Spanish Republic. The newly formed republic, a beacon of hope for many Spaniards, embarked on a series of ambitious reforms. Land reforms aimed at addressing rural inequality, universal male suffrage, and measures to curtail the power of the Catholic Church were central tenets of the Republican agenda. However, the path to a truly democratic and stable Spain was fraught with challenges. The Republic faced a formidable opposition from the right wing, which remained deeply attached to the ideals of the old regime. Landowners, the church, and conservative elements in the military viewed the reforms with alarm and actively sought to undermine the Republic. Furthermore, the deep ideological divisions within the Republican camp itself, ranging from moderate socialists to radical anarchists, hampered attempts to forge a unified national vision. The economic woes that had plagued Spain under the dictatorship continued to cast a long shadow. The Great Depression further exacerbated social unrest, with unemployment soaring and labor strikes becoming more frequent. The fledgling republic, lacking the resources and a unified national project, struggled to address the economic crisis and the growing social discontent. The political landscape of the republic became increasingly polarized. The radical left, frustrated with the slow pace of change, resorted to violence and revolutionary rhetoric. Meanwhile, the right wing, emboldened by the perceived weakness of the government, began to contemplate more drastic measures, including the possibility of a military uprising. This simmering tension reached a boiling point in February 1936, when a center-left coalition government was elected. The right, fearing a further swing to the left and a dismantling of the traditional social order, orchestrated a failed military coup. The subsequent repression and the escalating violence served as the prologue to the full-scale civil war that would engulf Spain for the next 3 years. The story of the years leading up to the Spanish Civil War chronicles the yearning for democracy, the struggle for social justice, and the tragic descent into violence. The echoes of this tumultuous period continue to resonate today, reminding us of the fragility of democracy and the dangers of unaddressed grievances and ideological polarization. The story serves as a cautionary tale, urging us to learn from the past and foster a spirit of tolerance and compromise to prevent nations from fracturing along political fault lines. A nation transformed. The Brazilian Revolution of 1930 and the dawn of the Vargas era. A tremor of change rippled through Brazil in 1930. The old republic, a fragile oligarchy teetering on the brink, crumbled under the weight of economic hardship and social unrest. We will explore the tumultuous events of the 1930 revolution, the rise of Getúlio Vargas to power, and the subsequent Vargas era, a period of profound transformation that reshaped the social and political landscape of Brazil. The seeds of revolution were sown in the fertile ground of economic disparity and political exclusion. The Great Depression, a global economic catastrophe, had a profound effect on Brazil, decimating coffee prices, the lifeblood of the nation's export economy. Widespread unemployment, coupled with a growing sense of political marginalization, fueled discontent amongst the working class and the burgeoning middle class. The political system, dominated by a small group of regional elites, failed to address the mounting concerns of the populace. Getúlio Vargas, a charismatic politician from southern Brazil, emerged as a figurehead for the growing wave of discontent. Vargas, leveraging his populist rhetoric and promises of reform, rallied a diverse coalition of supporters, from disgruntled military officers to urban workers. In October 1930, following a series of regional uprisings, Vargas led a bloodless revolt that toppled the sitting president. This revolution, swift and decisive, marked a turning point in Brazilian history. The old republic crumbled, and a new political era, the Vargas era, dawned upon the nation. Vargas, initially hailed as a champion of democracy, quickly consolidated power. He dissolved the existing political parties and established a provisional government, effectively becoming an authoritarian leader. While Vargas initially promised a return to democracy, he shrewdly navigated the political landscape, manipulating social anxieties and nationalist sentiments to maintain his grip on power. The Vargas era witnessed a series of reforms aimed at modernizing Brazil and addressing the needs of the burgeoning working class. Labor laws were enacted, establishing minimum wages and regulating working hours. Social security programs provided a safety net for the most vulnerable segments of society. State-owned enterprises were created to promote industrial development and reduce dependence on foreign imports. Vargas skillfully cultivated a populist image, portraying himself as a strong leader safeguarding the nation's interests. He deftly employed nationalistic rhetoric, fostering a sense of Brazilian identity that transcended regional divisions. This brand of nationalism, however, often came at the expense of political freedoms. Vargas suppressed dissent, silencing opposition voices and cracking down on communist and socialist movements. The Vargas era was not without its challenges. A failed communist uprising in 1935 provided Vargas with a pretext to further tighten his grip on power, leading to the creation of the Estado Novo, or New State, in 1937. This authoritarian regime, reminiscent of European fascism, curtailed civil liberties and established Vargas as a de facto dictator. Despite the authoritarian tendencies, the Vargas era ushered in a period of relative stability and economic growth. Industrial production increased, infrastructure projects were undertaken, and a sense of national identity blossomed. Vargas, however, remained a polarizing figure, revered by some as a visionary leader and reviled by others as a power-hungry autocrat. In 1945, facing mounting pressure from within and without, Vargas was forced to step down. However, his legacy continues to cast a long shadow over Brazilian politics. The social reforms implemented during his reign laid the foundation for the nation's modern welfare state. Vargas's populism, with its emphasis on national identity and social welfare, continues to resonate with Brazilian voters today. The 1930 revolution and the subsequent Vargas era was a period of profound transformation, dragging Brazil out of the oligarchic past and propelling it towards a more modern and industrialized future. The echoes of this era continue to resonate today, reminding us of the enduring quest for social justice, the perils of populism, and the delicate balance between stability and democracy. A descent into darkness, the 1932 German presidential elections and Hitler's rise to power. The year 1932 marked a pivotal turning point in German history. A nation still grappling with the scars of the First World War and the economic turmoil of the Great Depression found itself at a crossroads. We will examine the tumultuous events of the 1932 presidential elections, the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, and the backroom maneuvers that ultimately led to Hitler's appointment as Chancellor in 1933, a decision that plunged Germany into a dark abyss. The political landscape of Germany in 1932 was a fractured and volatile one. The Weimar Republic, a fragile democracy born from the ashes of the First World War, was facing mounting challenges. Economic woes, fueled by the Great Depression, had led to widespread unemployment, social unrest, and a growing sense of disillusionment with the established political order. The first act in this dramatic play unfolded in the presidential elections of March 1932. The incumbent president, Paul von Hindenburg, a revered war hero, faced a challenge from a diverse field of candidates, including Adolf Hitler. While Hindenburg failed to secure a majority in the first round, he narrowly defeated Hitler in the second round, thanks to the support of moderate parties. Hitler's electoral defeat, however, was a Pyrrhic victory for the Weimar Republic. The Nazi Party had garnered a significant share of the vote, a stark reminder of the growing popularity of their extremist ideology. Furthermore, the political landscape remained fragmented, with no party able to command a clear majority in the German parliament, or Reichstag. The following months witnessed a rapid deterioration in the political and economic climate. A series of short-lived chancellorships failed to address the mounting crisis. Meanwhile, the Nazi Party continued to gain momentum, exploiting the social unrest and political instability to their advantage. Fresh elections in July 1932 saw the Nazi Party emerge as the largest single party in the Reichstag, further consolidating their position. With the political deadlock persisting, backroom maneuvers came to the fore. Franz von Papen, a conservative politician with a disdain for democracy, emerged as a key player. Desperate to prevent a communist takeover and clinging to a belief that Hitler could be controlled, Papen, with the backing of President Hindenburg's son, proposed a coalition government with the Nazis. Hitler, however, rejected the initial offer, demanding the chancellorship for himself. After weeks of tense negotiations and pressure exerted on the aging Hindenburg, Hitler was finally appointed chancellor in January 1933. This fateful decision, driven by a misguided hope of containing Hitler's ambitions, marked a pivotal turning point in German history. The appointment of a virulently anti-democratic figure to the highest office in the land signaled the beginning of the end for the Weimar Republic. Hitler, once in power, swiftly began dismantling the democratic institutions of the Republic, consolidating his own power, and paving the way for a totalitarian regime. The 1932 elections and Hitler's subsequent rise remain a cautionary tale for democracies around the world. The story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of economic hardship, political fragmentation, and the allure of extremist ideologies in times of crisis. The echoes of this period continue to resonate today, urging us to remain vigilant against the erosion of democratic values and the rise of authoritarianism. In the next chapter, we will cover the Austrian Civil War and the Chaco War in South America, as well as the Night of the Long Knives, Hitler's brutal elimination of his political enemies.